Welcome everybody, Miles Kessler here, and I want to welcome you all to this interview that I'm doing with Mark Walsh about the Embodiment Conference. Hey Mark, how are you doing?
It's pretty intense right now. Good, but intense.
How are you holding up?
You know, I'm a solid 6 out of 10, which under the circumstances actually feels pretty good. Like, I'm functioning, had good chats already today with various members of staff, meditated this morning, keeping my practices up, did some exercise with our friend Matt Hill. You know, I feel like I'm taking care of myself pretty well. And it's just a big thing. So it is intense right now.
That's great. So we're something like 9 days out of away from the Embodiment Conference.
In 9 days from the start, there is just shy of 300,000 people registered. And
okay, so let's stop right there. Just for people who don't get what we're talking about here today. So we are actually here to talk about not just how we're feeling, but Mark is producing an upcoming event called the Embodiment Conference, which seems to be on track to become the largest ever online telesummit of its kind. Is that true?
It already is. Yeah, I know the guy, my friend Alex, did the second largest, and it was just under 200,000. So, you know, I love embodiment, body mind practices, Aikido, like you, meditation, conscious dance, you know, this yoga. These are practices I've done my whole life. I love it. It's my life's work to make that stuff available to the whole world. And, you know, a couple of years ago, we thought, oh, we could do this on the internet. This cool guy called Miles Kessler gave us this idea, and we thought, let's roll with it. And so we had this idea, and you said, you know what, Mark, you might get 5,000 people, or you might get more. And then 15,000 people turned up. And I thought,
it was unbelievable. I was like cheering and rooting you along the whole time. And so
you're a big help.
And then,
well, not only did 15,000 people turn up, but it was a deep experience. Like, we weren't like embodiment online. It seems kind of funny, you know, kind of weird, kind of kooky before the Zoom era, which we'll talk about in a minute maybe. But it was like people were mocking me, you know, say, hey, you can't do an embodiment conference online. And not only did we make it freely available, because our model is it's free to everyone around the world, but you pay for the recordings if you want the recordings. So as a business model, it's nice because it's like, basically I take a big risk, everyone gets it for free, and hopefully people buy it. And they did the first time, so, you know, it worked out. But it was beautiful to share with so many people, but also that it went very deep. And it built all sorts of great relationships and communities, embodiment circles in real life, you know, people getting together, all sorts of things.
Yeah, connections that you'd probably never imagined you would be making.
Yeah, having tea with Ken Wilber a few months later, and people, you know, presenters becoming friends, and just all sorts of fun things, doors opening all over the place. And for everyone, not just for me, for everyone. And that was
great. And when all was over and done, you took a few weeks to relax.
I went and you know, swam in the sea and drowned.
What the hell happened?
Well, I just thought to myself, I've always been kind of bold and ballsy, if I'm honest. And I said, you know, how big could this be? And Daniela, who's the super administrator, who we both know, who ran the first one, I said, what if Daniela trained 10 Danielas? What if there was like 10 departments, and each department was as big as the first conference? And what if we actually knew what we were doing the second time with our marketing and Facebook?
Right.
Because we didn't, first time we just made it up. You know, we didn't even have a business model. We just wanted to do it. And I said, what if we had a year to prepare rather than 3 months, which is, you know, the prep time for the first one. Yeah. And I thought, how big can this be? And I thought, you know what, we could do 10 channels of 100 speakers. So essentially it's like each channel, each department is the same as a normal summit, a big summit. So we have, you know, 100 speakers.
Okay, so this one big telesummit you're doing is like 10 telesummits in one.
Yeah, so you imagine like the best TV you've ever had on in your life with 10 different channels that's on simultaneously through a 12-day period. So you could flick between them as like a main stage, you know, people like Gabor Mate, Peter Levine, Tara Brach, Jack Cornfield, Bonnie Beveridge Cohen. And then there's like
amazing people. I would sit and listen to any one of them whenever I would have the time.
They're top tier. Like I flew to California to interview Bonnie because she didn't do Zoom at the time. And almost gave half of California COVID, but everyone was okay in the end. It was fine. But, you know, it's just as COVID was kicking off. So, you know, and just to chat to Bonnie and Don Hanlon Johnson for a few hours was amazing. You know, I had lunch with these guys and I was like, well, these people are my heroes and they're such elders in the work. And, you know, but you know, normally I could afford that flight and that hotel and that chat. But now to record it and put it on the internet free to the world, everyone can. And as you know, here's the really cool thing, translated into 9 languages. Okay.
No, that's insane. That's insane, Mark.
So I said, listen.
Okay. All right, go ahead. I want to stop you in a second, but finish your thought.
Yeah, well, my thinking was we want to make this available to everyone. Most people actually have the internet now. You can go to like Ethiopia and people have like handsets for the internet, you know. And but I thought most people don't understand English. And I thought, you know what, if we make this into 9 languages, then something like 80% of the world, 81% of the world can understand it. Even if it's not their first language.
80% of the world who also has their own embodiment traditions.
Sure. So we also wanted to, you know, we've tried to make this truly global in the sense of like often a summit will be diverse, meaning different colors of American, right? But, you know, our team is Russian, Israeli, Saudi Arabian, Croatian, Irish, Serbian. I mean, we're the United Nations on the team. And then the speakers is even more so. So we've tried to really reach out and get speakers, you know, Maori guys from New Zealand and South Americans and Africans. And it's, you know, I mean, yeah, there's still disproportionate number of English and Americans because I know them, but it's truly global. You know, there's 20 speakers from Singapore, for example. So in that sense, both in the speaker selection and in the language translation, it really is something a bit unusual.
Okay, so I want to step out of the complexity of it all for just a second and go back to something that you said at the beginning. You said embodiment's my thing. I know you for a long time, over 10 years, 12 years or something like that. I know that you're passionate about this. Why are you not just being yourself, but to bring it to other people?
So why do you love anything? It's kind of like, why do you love the woman you love, right? You just do. On one level, that's true. You just do. Like, I'm not going to tell you on an Excel spreadsheet why my wife's the best woman, which she is, obviously. But it's like, you know, I'm not going to work that out scientifically. But let me give you a more biographical answer. I was very cognitively clever as a child. IQ measured in the top 0.01%. And I was miserable. And I was addicted, and I was a drug addict and alcoholic, and I was, you know, suicidally depressed. And I'd read every book in the library at high school, at sixth form college, literally every book. They were ordering them in from Cambridge University because I was speed reading, you know, every book. And I thought, after I'd read every book in the library, they said, right, next stop, university. And I was, you know, any university you want, you know. And
traditional track.
Right.
Follow the traditional, fit into the cookie cutter, follow the traditional track.
And they're like, this is the next step. And I said, well, hang on a minute. I read this library. I don't think a bigger library is going to help. Because cognitive information is not all we need. And now we have Wikipedia. You know, I can just get my phone out and all the information in the world is right there.
Right.
It hasn't solved the world's problems. World problems are worse than ever. And a lot of those problems are related to disconnection. When we're disconnected to ourselves, we see the sort of mental health issues and the addiction issues that I had as a teenager. We see
it's even exasperating. It's exasperating disconnection.
It's getting worse. It's for sure it's getting worse, disconnection. Through technology, through trauma, through COVID, which I hope we'll come to. And then the disconnection from other people is we all become psychopaths. We all actually lose empathy for our fellow humans when we lose contact with the body. And then on the bigger sense, the planet, we could also add meaning and spirituality. And I got it, for me, I went to university and luckily they had an Aikido club. And I thought, you know, young guy, I want to learn to fight. I'm in this big city for the first time. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to learn martial arts. And that was the opening for me. And then through martial arts, I went, oh, this is fantastic. This is giving me so much more. You know, I spent all my time in the dojo, not in the library at university. I barely stepped into the library because I was done with the library. And then it, you know, went to meditation and, you know, you realize like, hey, maybe there's things I'm going to learn in tango or contact dance. I'm not going to learn in Aikido. And, you know, I moved away from the sort of provincial, everyone has to do Aikido, or, you know, for some people, everyone has to do yoga.
Or like Aikido has it all, or yoga has it all.
Yeah, and you're an integral guy too, so, you know, I think you share this perspective, but realizing there's more out there. And part of the conference's beauty is to say, look, there's a lot out there, and here's how to make sense of it. Here's how we can be discerning, like we don't just have any old new age nonsense on there, you know, and here's how we can curate it. So the really clever thing, made in Israel, the really clever thing about the conference is the portal. So it's not.
I've been playing with it. It's awesome.
What do you think?
It's wonderful.
What do you think? What do you like about it?
Oh, it's great. I love it. I've scheduled all the talks. It's like nothing I've ever seen before. Well, it's nothing I've ever seen in terms of conferences. I schedule everything I want. I can find what I'm looking for each day. It's on my calendar because I was able to kind of add it to it. It's fantastic, Mark. It's like the perfect. It's like so user friendly. Great job.
Yeah, and
great job, Madar.
yeah, she's a credit to Smadar and to Pete and Smadar's husband Or for making it. You know, those guys did a great job, and it orders it, it structures it, because otherwise you've just got a big mess. Yeah. And I say it's like totally Embodiment University. Yeah. It's like a university. You can watch it live. If people live just want to turn up and maybe listen to a big name, that's cool. They can do that. It's free of charge. Or if they want to like actually work their way through it over the next 2 or 3 years, we've got tutorial groups and peer learning, you know, where there's notes for every single session. So we've got 1,000 sets of notes. There's audio only, because some people said, hey, but how can I listen to this while doing the dishes and looking at, you know, walking my dog? And I'm like, okay, we do the audio as well. So, you know, we did a lot of like testing of what people wanted and the different formats. And yeah, now it's all there. And it's, as I said, it's shaping up to be something a little bit special.
All right, so let's back up a second, because embodiment's your passion. Bringing embodiment to the world is kind of your like whatever. That's your thing.
Sure.
You decided to do this big event. Classic hero's journey. You said we had a win on the first one. You said, okay, now we're gonna do something. It's gonna be 10, 20, 100 times bigger. And so you do it. You take the steps onto the journey. And allies come to support you, because the other people get inspired by your inspiration, but also challenges come up, challenges that have to be worked through. Not to mention 2020 and COVID-19 collapse. In one sense, it's like hell, but it's also it's a blessing and a curse and a blessing, I think. What are some of the challenges that you've been meeting?
Well, let's talk about the allies, because it gives me the energy to talk about those. So, first of all, we have good friends, people like you, people like Martin Airwood, people like Matt Hill, you know, your friend who's doing our staff training program. We have good friends who linked us up with other speakers, who promoted us, who gave us good advice. You know, I have a good coach and a therapist that I speak to regularly. Both, you know, from the psychological point of view and the sort of structural point of view, or like Alex Howard, who run the big trauma conference that was the second biggest conference, he's giving me marketing advice later. He's a friend of mine. You know, that's collegiate as hell. So people that really
you've got like a support around you and the team.
It's a huge
safety net to catch you guys if you fall.
So we got a great team. You know, I mentioned Smadar, Daniela, there's, you know, a volunteer coordinator. There's, you know, people that do all different parts of it. The different track managers are great. And I already had kind of a network already. So, you know, ex-students, different colleagues, people like you who I knew already. So that was great. And so they were the support people, and that's deepened. And I, you know, want to give full credit to the team there.
Actually, and also just a lot of your team are people that've been through the embodiment training with you, right?
Yeah.
So they're not just employees. They're not just employees, they're actually in the field.
And we noticed the people who haven't, you know, like when you're in something as intense as this, if people don't know centering skills, or they haven't had any empathy training, or they're not able to have any models of typology to look at difference, it really shows sometimes. And so the 80% of them are embodiment people, you know, Aikido teachers, dance teachers, you know, people like Christina, you know, who's a black belt, and people like this. So then the challenge is, I mean, one big challenge is just money. Like, I'm an embodiment teacher first and a business person second. And
I know how that goes.
And you know, I've learned to be a good enough business person, but it was never, and I have some talent for it, I think, but it was never like my calling. I wasn't trained in it even as well. You know, no one in my family ran a business. Like my family think I'm insane. I tell them there's $1 million budget, and they're just like, what? You know? So originally the budget was 150,000 pounds, like $200,000, and it's gone up to $1 million because we kept adding things and staff and translation, just making it better and better and better. So you know, I'm pretty heavily in terms of the finances. You know, we've sold now like 25% to break even, which at this point is pretty good, but it's like, you know, just dealing with that emotionally and psychologically is a challenge. And then learning to be a good enough business person to be like, okay, business is different at different scales, and I've never run a business with £1 million budget before. So, you know, that's a whole new thing for me, both practically and emotionally. So I think that's been a big challenge. And my own personal journey along the way, you know, it's like everyone thinks they want to be the president, but you really don't. You really don't. Like, as a leader, I mean, I wake up to jealousy, criticism, attack, just strange behavior from old friends. You know, some couldn't give a shit, some start kissing your ass, and some get jealous and hateful.
When you say attacks, they're attacks personally or attacks to the conference in general?
We have both. I mean, like, the internet's full of crazy people, right? And also just think of it like,
especially these days.
Yeah, especially these days, which was the next thing we can come into. But like, I run a town currently of 300,000 people. It will probably be a country the size of Luxembourg by the time we finish. Like literally the size of
Right.
Luxembourg. Okay, so we're
Right.
looking at maybe a tenth the size of Israel or whatever, right? So it's
Yeah.
that's a reasonably sized city, if not country, right?
Mm.
Like it's Copenhagen or whatever, right? So I
Right.
go, okay, this is a city the size of Copenhagen. I'm the mayor. What, it only takes 1% of people to be crazy, or 1% of, and God love them, you know, I've had mental health issues, I get it, or 1% of people to be malintended, shall we say, for that
Right.
to be quite a lot of people, and those people can have quite big voices on the internet and be quite unpleasant. So,
Yeah.
you know, that I would say is has been one challenge, and I've definitely got a thicker skin and learned to keep myself at a distance. And we have a diversity manager who can deal with certain things, and you know, these kind of
Right.
pieces. And then we got COVID. Like everyone's nuts right now. Everyone's on edge. People have got this fight flight in their system, and people are playing out their anxieties in other ways. People are projecting vulnerabilities in other ways. People are just a bit disconnected, and now in some ways that, you know, good for the conference in that, you know, more people are online, maybe during lockdown, whatever. But it's a pretty interesting environment to be leading a large event in, for sure.
Yeah. And it's interesting because for me, I know your intention is pure. You know, we've spoken about that. We've been speaking about this for a couple of years, that you're actually bringing more consciousness to more breadth and to more depth. And, you know, you're adding to the human wisdom by setting up this portal,
It's a
this
positive thing.
conference.
It's a positive thing.
It's such a positive thing. And yet at the same time, when you actually bring something into the world, there are forces that tend to push back. For
Yeah,
example,
yeah,
either consciously or even unconsciously. For example, COVID-19. Not that COVID-19 is after the embodiment conference. Don't get me wrong, but it's just, you know, the timing of this is a curse and a blessing at the same time, because, you know, people are going to be home.
well, the blessings also is people got used to Zoom. Like we moved, we were
That's
going to move to
right.
We were
That's
going to move
right.
to Blue Jeans, which is another platform. Had some advantages. In the end, we moved back to Zoom because we were like, everyone knows Zoom. Everyone's
Good move.
comfortable and familiar with it. It's not weird to do a yoga
Right.
class on Zoom now. So it's
Right.
not
Yeah.
weird to do a whole conference full of them. So
Right.
so the familiarity with Zoom has helped us. And you know, people are looking for self-regulation and self-care. So it's like that's one of the things embodiment's about, for sure. And also it's just like there's just a lot of weird stuff going on in the world, and tensions and anxieties and just low level fight flight, looking for somewhere to go. And when you can't
Yeah.
control the world, you look for something that you can control, or something that makes sense. And also there is this also I'd say there's another one, which is mistrust in leadership and authority. So anyone who's in a leadership
Right.
authority position is perceived as corrupt. And now, don't
Right.
get me wrong, you know, when you said your intentions are pure, I would say, yeah, pretty much. But also, you know, I'm a human being, so I'm subject to greed and, you know, ignorance and, you know,
No, sure. Of course. Of course.
and I think people are really focusing on the inability of leaders and the corruption of leaders right now, and not necessarily even seeing that there could be a possibly a good leader. So there's this reaction against anything that's, particularly in alternative circles, anything big and successful, there can be a reaction towards. So that's been a challenge.
I think this is one of the blessings of the conferences, because, you know, this year has created a lot of fear, a lot of instability, and a lot of insecurity in people's lives. The ground is literally shaking under their feet, and embodiment is one of the best ways, if not the best way, to kind of bring people back to some type of basic trust. And speaking about leadership, each and every one of the 1,000 teachers is a voice of leadership that's saying, hang on a second, we can actually, there's something here that we can come back to that is unshakable, that's not subject to all this craziness in the world.
Yeah. So I published this last year, and just a week before it was like due to be published, the book on embodiment. It's free, by the way, if anyone, I'm not selling it. It's free PDF, register for the conference. This is what I said right now. This is what I said before COVID. This is why embodiment, This is why embodiment is trending right now. The times necessitate it. In times of chaos, the body is an anchor. In times of mistrust and post-truth, the body is a source of wisdom. In a time of disconnection, the body is where reconnection begins, first to ourselves, then through that to meaning, then to each other, and vitally to the planet. So that was written a year ago.
That's prophetic.
Almost, right? So
yeah.
like we need
it's more relevant now than it was a year ago.
Right. I was sensing something coming, maybe. So
well, let's talk a little bit about what they're going to have a chance to do in the conference. Who are they going to see? Who are some of the people? I mean, there's a big list.
Where to begin, right? You know, I'm going to bring up that if people go to theembodimentconference.org, they'll immediately see a video and some of the big names. So, like, let's just take the trauma world because that's popular. People like Stephen Porges, Bessel van der Kolk, Dan Segal, Gabor Mate is kind of a rock star. If people are more meditators, they may know Tara Brach, Jack Cornfield, Ken Wilber, obviously yourself, Miles. From the yoga world, Leslie Kaminoff, Richard Strachey Heckler, Wendy Palmer from Embodied Leadership, Tom Myers from Anatomy, Gil Headley from Anatomy, Daria Halprin from Dance, Rod Stryker from Yoga. I mean, Sharon Salzberg, I should have mentioned Tammy Simon, Sebastian Foucault, who's one of the founders of Parkour. I mean, I'm literally just looking at the website right now. You know,
so it's kind of a who's who of the transformation movement in a way. But you've got 10 tracks, but there's also going to be keynotes, right?
Yeah. So some of these I mentioned were keynotes. Some of them will be on the different tracks. So, you know, the different tracks we've got: ecology, intimacy, leadership, yoga, trauma, meditation, dance, movement, martial arts, and coaching. So there's sort of 10 departments. A lot of people could be in different departments. It's just a way of breaking it up. It's 24 hours a day. So there's a talk on the hour every 2 hours. And then there's a what we call a coffee break, which is really fun, which is where you get put in a Zoom room. And the Zoom room will be with people that you've met before, very likely, and you can hang out and chat about it between the actual events. Because we found that the first one.
There's the communal aspect to it, where people can really connect with each other.
You know, that makes a big difference. I mean, yeah, people want to hear Joseph Goldstein or David Biselli. They want to hear the big names, but that connection is often what people are longing for, is just to talk to another human being. And it's kind of international and cool, which people like. You're in a Zoom room, there's like 10 other people, one's from Sweden, one's from Japan, one's from Canada, one's from Mexico. You're like, hey, hi. And then you can kind of process and digest the learning between the sessions.
And the sessions, I suppose, some of them will be kind of a TED Talk, some of them will be a practice workshop, some of it will be a panel discussion.
Yeah, so we have on the portal, you can actually see if it's going to be moving or still or active. So it could be a little bit active, like it could be just sitting and talking, it could be a panel, it could be a presentation, or it could be like a full yoga class or dance class. And you can see that. You can also see how emotionally triggering each one is likely to be. So I usually come with a chili. So a chili is like a trigger warning, you know? And then there's other people who are like...
Give me an example of a trigger warning. Potential trigger warning.
Like I'm going to swear and talk about sex and make bad jokes. And, you know, I'm going to talk about emotionally difficult things. And it's...
How many chilies do you get, Mark?
I get 5 chilies, man. That's how it rolls. That's how it rolls. It's from a British curry man.
5-alarm chili fire.
5 does no. And then somebody else is the chamomile tea logo, which is like, it's going to be soothing. It's going to be relaxing. And then some other people are neutral. And then the last one is like how intellectually stimulating you want it to be. Like I tend, like me and you, we tend to talk like quite fast, quite intellectual, quite like advanced level. Other people is more like beginner's guide to trauma. You can invite your mum who isn't into this stuff to watch that one, you know? Like, and then some is more intermediate. So you can use those filters. You can use date filters. You can use hashtag filters if you want. You know, trauma and yoga. Okay, what's about trauma and yoga? These 5 sessions. Great. Here are the dates. Put them in your diary.
Fantastic. So listen, anybody watching this, if you haven't signed up, if for some reason you're not on social media or whatever, you haven't seen the Embodiment Conference, look below this video somewhere for a place to click and join. It's completely free, correct, Mark?
Free live and for 48 hours. So if you just want to watch like 10, 20 sessions, that's quite a lot, right? You can do that totally for free. It's theembodimentconference.org. The Embodiment Conference, Google will find it, and you can watch whatever you want live. And it's only if you really want to see everything, you really want to maybe you're a professional and this is your professional development for the year.
No, it's an amazing, as a professional resource or somebody who's committed to personal development resource. Why don't you tell us about the offer that you have, the package?
Yeah, so this, at the moment it's 50% off. So we're keeping the price down ahead of the conference. So kind of our main fans can get in there. As soon as people sign up, they'll be offered that. And it's, you know, it's right there if people want it. As I said, 50% of the price. And if you can just get the keynotes, that's like $149, which isn't crazy money. $149 US, and that's all the keynotes plus some other stuff, like 70 hours of content. Or they can get the whole thing for $3.99, which again is less than $1. It's like 50 cents per person. And that's all the professional development you'll need. It's a library. You know, it's like being given your access to a library of the cool stuff. Plus you get all the notes and you get the stuff that you don't get when you're, you know, just, you know, the kind of free kind of access. So, yeah, there it is. It's all there if people want it. I don't want to oversell it. As I said, it's free if people want to just turn up and watch some stuff.
Beautiful, fantastic. Mark, is there any final words you want to message that you want to?
Just I think you guys just deserve credit for being the guy who inspired me and Daniela to start the first one, and you've been a big supporter all the way through, which I appreciate. So thank you. We call you Uncle Miles, so thank you, Uncle Miles, for your ongoing support. And yeah, I hope you guys are doing okay in Israel. I know you've got a second lockdown, and it's pretty stressful right now.
Yeah, actually, I'm locked down. I'm with the kids. Hey, Yoel, you want to say hi? So I'm with the kids today. They were actually very gracious to.
Yeah, they've given us 28 minutes of peace. I wasn't expecting that from little Israeli. Shalom Motek. I wasn't expecting that from Israeli kids.
Yeah, this is Yoel. She's hopefully going to be going back to school in a week, but it doesn't look like it. And Adja. Adja's not going to join us.
What do you feel? How do you feel about not going back to school?
How do you feel about going back to school? Do you want to go back to school?
No.
We were talking about that this morning.
School sucks. I run a big embodiment school.
We feel really strongly about her going back to school.
You want to go back to school.
As soon as possible. Not before. But,
you know, people are suffering right now. There's no other word for it. Whether it's just...
You did say you're going to put something on YouTube.
I did say I'm going to put something on YouTube. We'll do that afterwards, okay?
Okay.
We're almost done now.
On YouTube. Okay, nice to see you. I better head off.
Yeah.
I've got a meeting here. Thanks, Miles.
Great, Mark. We'll talk to you soon, okay? All the best.
care.
TheEmbodimentConference.com, right?
.org. TheEmbodimentConference.org.
TheEmbodimentConference.org. Look around the video. You'll see a post, a link. Thank you, everybody. Good luck, Mark.
Thanks, Senna. Thanks for your time to the little
Hang in there for the next 8 days. Don't get sick.
It's a finance
Hang
meeting
tight.
now.
Go from 6 to 7.
Bye.